I'm Michelle Sterling for Friends of Science Society. COP26 in Glasgow approaches when the climate-teers plan to implement the Paris Agreement Rulebook. Dates for a rescheduled conference in 2021, hosted in Glasgow by the UK in partnership with Italy, have been set to the 1st to 12th of November 2021, but virtual work continues behind the scenes. COP26 has been pushed back due to the COVID-19 pandemic, but as in the past, we expect to see thousands of people who are busy saving the planet to fly into Glasgow. In the meantime, the climate-teers are working to take the voluntary Paris Agreement and turn it into a rule book, and that's bad news for Canada and democracy. Remember, Canada signed a voluntary agreement, which required us to do nothing but report on our greenhouse gas targets every 5 years. But activists like Ecojustice are trying to force all kinds of new climate laws on Canadians, using the Paris Agreement and our voluntary, self-imposed targets as justification. And a group of kids are demanding we make ecocide a crime. Should your democratic freedoms be compromised by foreign-funded activists and children exploited by carbon offset kings? In fact, the science of Paris is on very shaky ground. It's certainly not settled, since more than 900 Clintel signatory scientists and scholars state that there's no climate emergency and natural forces like the sun are the main driver of climate change. These COPs, or Conference of the Parties, have met every year since 1995. In that time, fossil fuel consumption has risen dramatically worldwide, but the 2018 IPCC SR15 report says we should dramatically reduce the use of coal, natural gas, and oil in the next decade. This is where the non-scientists like Greta get the idea that we don't have time, when in reality we have lots of time. Just like the UN said in 1989, we only have a few years to save the planet. Well, meanwhile, let's all fly to another climate conference. But you should pay attention to this conference, because there's still a push to make a global carbon tax an international law. Before you agree to that, let's think about who would implement such a law. Who would be the objective judge? And what are the implications for Canadians, for democracy? Most of the world and most members of the United Nations are not democracies. None of the top 11 countries with oil reserves are Western-style democracies. None, except Canada and the US. And just as we've seen with the green trade war against Canadian pipelines and oil exports, how would little old Canada fare under a global carbon tax law? For instance, people love to say Canadians have the highest per capita GHG footprint in the world, but that's not true. Let's look at these statistics. Lots of places have 2 or 3 times our per capita emissions, and in Canada, we're only 37 million in the second largest, cold, vast country in the world. What of Denmark, a tiny country with a large commercial marine fleet? Just one of those container ships puts out the equivalent pollution of 50 million cars. But that doesn't count when their fleet of ships are at sea. Or how about Sweden? A tiny country of 9 million compared to Canada, runs on nuclear, so a very low GHG footprint. And Sweden can afford a carbon tax of $80 a ton. But does that apply to the IKEA empire that Sweden is so proud of? IKEA has 313 stores in 38 countries. All those goods didn't get there by walking. But hey, IKEA owns a wind farm in Alberta, so it's all good. Only Russia and Canada face similar challenges of vast distances, extremes of climate, and the need to transport essential goods thousands of miles in rain, snow, or freezing cold. But Canada pulled out of Kyoto in 2011 precisely because we would have had to pay countries like Russia $14 billion in penalties for not meeting our Kyoto GHG reduction targets, while they didn't have to meet any. Can you see where this is going? Canada is busy being a climate leader, but it's more like we're carbon dupes. The global average price of carbon is $8 a ton. The carbon price in China, $2 a ton. The carbon price in the United States, $0 a ton. And the price in Canada, $30 a ton. In fact, in Canada, the present combined federal and provincial fuel taxes are already equivalent to a carbon tax of more than $192 a ton. Judith Curry and almost 1,000 scientists of Clintel have determined that carbon dioxide is not the control knob. It's not the thermostat that can turn global temperatures up or down. So a carbon tax is a senseless thing, unless it's just a way for green billionaires to make more billions from you on carbon trading markets. And who will benefit? Countries with no environmental standards, white-collar criminals, international mafia, they've all been implicated in the illegal carbon trades because it's a virtual commodity. Like the emperor's new clothes, there's nothing there. Competitive fossil fuel interests could block us, tax us, and crush our democracy through CO2 coercion. We issued a report reviewing the faulty premises of the IPCC SR 1.5 report. Please read it. It's in plain language, and it will give you some ideas of smarter ways to take climate action and adaptation that won't put the world on a road to ruin. There's hope for a better world, and it starts with challenging the faulty premises of the carbon climateers. For Friends of Science Society, I'm Michelle Sterling.